Xavi on the break. After that corner kick, but he's on his own. Midfield. Nice pass to Danny Olmo to the right-hand side. He's putting it in the middle too. Wow! Go Penda!
Welcome to RBLE Global Tracks, Leipzig's fresh RB Leipzig podcast in English. And this one is brought to you by Richard and Mario. Amongst us, we are season ticket holders, passionate supporters, and not very neutral local pundits. And both of us have been following Leipzig football since our childhood days. So if you want to hear about RB Leipzig, capture the mood of the fans in the city, and if you want to go beyond numbers and statistics, you are in the right place. We're delighted to welcome you on board, so let's go. Auf geht's, Leipziger Jungs. Mr. Richard, how are you today?
Mr. Mario, thank you very much. I'm good. Spring is coming to town. 10 degrees.
I know.
Plus. Today it's a little bit windy, but hey, it was quite comfy. Without gloves on the bicycle in the early morning. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to our show tonight.
Do you know who would be wearing gloves? Timo Werner. Yeah, definitely. Black ones. Anyway, he's doing that now in the north of London, so best of luck to him. Well, today we have a special show because, well, we have to look back at the clash with Bayer Leverkusen. And we have a special guest today. It's a gentleman who calls himself the Village Footballer. And on Twitter, ex-Twitter, you can find him at VillageFooty20. And he's one of the hosts of the Bundesliga Show, and that's broadcasted on YouTube and audio podcasts. And he's actually from the UK, but he's also a VfB Stuttgart supporter. So we are very interested in his views ahead of the clash with VfB Stuttgart. So that's following on a little bit later. But first but not least, well, let's have a look at our last match versus Bayer Leverkusen. And now, let's have a look at RB Leipzig's last match. Did we have a reason for celebration with bubbly, nice fizzy champagne? Or did we just have to resort to having some beer? Champagner statt Bier? Let's find out. Well, Saturday night, 6:30, Leipzig covered in the white blanket. Temperature is well below zero. It is cold, but RB Leipzig has a full stadium because they're hosting the unbeaten leader of the Bundesliga, the Werkself, Bayer 04 Leverkusen, who started their second match without the important players who had taken part in the African Cup of Nations, plus Boniface being injured. And they arrive at Leipzig after beating Augsburg at Augsburg 1-0 the week before. It was very tight, but they did win it. And we all remember what happened to RB Leipzig last week. Well, when we played Eintracht Frankfurt. So atmosphere was really good. Everything was set up for a top match. And to be honest, at the end of the day, it was beer for Leipzig again because we lost 2-3. However, I believe it was a highly entertaining match. So let's take you through the key moments. And let's get started with Leipzig's starting 11.
Liebe Fußballfans, wir kommen jetzt zu unserer heutigen Mannschaftsaufstellung. Wie immer beginnen wir mit unserem Torhüter mit der Rückennummer 21, Janis. Rückennummer 2, Mohamed. Rückennummer 7, Dani. Mit der Nummer 13, Nikolas. Rückennummer 16, Lukas. Mit der Nummer 17, Luis. Rückennummer 20, Xavi. Mit der Nummer 22,
Danny Olmo will start a match for RB Leipzig in a very long time since he's had his injury, and we keep our fingers crossed for many more days, weeks and months of Danny Olmo being fit and injury-free. Do hear us, Fußballgott. Not Timo Werner, by the way. Also, the lineup sees Seiwald, which is a bit surprising, but a very good sign. And to be honest, he did perform quite well in that match. And on the bench, we have Paulsen and also Henrich. So Šeško is playing, and also Klostermann and Lukeba and Simakon on the back. And it's also worth noting that the lineup also sees Elmas on the bench. So in his second match after joining RB Leipzig, he will not be in the starting 11. So game starts, everybody's ready, atmosphere is really good, and to be honest, RB Leipzig and Bayer Leverkusen starting quite intensely. I think RB Leipzig is the little bit more active team, creating a few more chances in the first 5, 6, 7 minutes. It's fair to say that at this point we are cautiously optimistic. And it gets even better as Xavi Simons' magic strikes in the 8th minute, scoring the first goal for RB Leipzig. And what a beauty it is. Šeško gets defender Tar on the left-hand side, passes it on to Schlager. Schlager knows where Xavi is, passes it on to him, and he finishes the job in an extraordinarily skilled fashion.
Spielminute trifft unser Mann mit der Rücke Nummer 20. Xavi! 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 Und damit haben wir einen neuen Spielstand der RB Leipzig. Bayer Leverkusen. Danke!
And more chances are created by RB Leipzig and Xavi doing Xavi things. RB Leipzig continues to be more active, creating more chances. Danny's almost very active. Simakon is testing the Leverkusen goalie as well. And also Penda being very active. Claiming to be fouled twice and looking for penalties twice, but according to the ref, that was too soft. However, about 10 minutes before the end of the first half, we're getting the feeling that this match is not over by a long shot, because Bayer Leverkusen is getting stronger. They're getting a bit more possession of the ball, creating a few half chances, so to speak. And to be honest, the sponsor beer saved us from the equalizer in the first half. Unfortunately, 2 minutes into the second half, the Bayer Empire strikes back. A nice goal by Teller. 1-1. Not the best of starts, is it? And it doesn't seem that there's going to be a change fast, because Bayer Leverkusen has more ball position, more control of the ball. RB Leipzig doesn't attack as early anymore as in the first half, and now they can see the corner kick. But hey, what's happening here?
Xavi on the break after that corner kick, but he's on his own midfield. Nice pass to Danny Olmo to the right hand side. He's putting it in the middle too. Wow! Go Penda! back.
Well, the excitement is clearly there, but it just lasts another 7 minutes because then Leverkusen sends another ball in from a corner kick, which Tar took as a header and just nodded it in to the score. RB Leipzig is complaining that Blaswich was blocked when he was trying to get the ball. However, the VAR did not see any reason to overrule the decision on the field. So there we go, 2-2 the score. Is there a big push by RB Leipzig? Unfortunately not. We're getting increasingly vibes of Manchester City when they played at Leipzig, because Bayer Leverkusen is now displaying their pure class of ball possession, aggressiveness, passing the ball. RB Leipzig does not get a sniff at the ball at times. And Marco Rose tries to inject fresh legs, fresh personnel, takes 4 players off the pitch in the 74th minute and sends in the cavalry.
Und wir begrüßen ganz herzlich im neuen Spiel unseren Mann mit der Rückennummer 9, Yusuf! Mit der 14, Christoph! Und mit der 39, Benjamin! Und begrüßen dafür ganz herzlich im neuen Spiel unseren Mann mit der 44, Kevin!
And I would love to claim that this really helps the game and RB Leipzig turns the match around and pushes for that third goal, but no, that is unfortunately not the case. Bayer Leverkusen is a class team. They show why they're the top of the league at the moment. They show why, they demonstrate why they are unbeaten in the Bundesliga, and they pass the ball so brilliantly. They, at the end of the match, they will have 60% possession of the ball, but 10 minutes before the game, RB Leipzig is not getting a sniff at the ball, but Bayer Leverkusen is not creating those chances yet. But things get worse for RBL when Xavi picks up his 5th yellow card in the 81st minute. So he is definitely suspended for the clash versus Stuttgart next week. And he's replaced by Elmas in the 84th minute, but Elmas does not really make any impact in the final minute. So it happened what definitely needs to happen. Corner kick, 1 minute into stoppage time for Bayer Leverkusen, and they just score the third and the winning goal, and we're all truly gutted. Now, RB Leipzig does try to come back. They have a free kick just moments before the end of the match.
Brown, free kick outside the penalty box. Delivery comes in. No header.
And after this harmless piece of free kick, Leipzig's fate is sealed. The match ends a couple of minutes later with Bayer Leverkusen taking all the points, going home very happy, confirming and demonstrating why they're the top of the league. And to be honest, that win, after all 93 minutes, is well deserved. Congratulations, guys. So unfortunately, this loss is the second time in a row that RB Leipzig has lost a home match. And this is the first time that RB Leipzig loses 2 consecutive home matches in the Bundesliga in its long traditional Bundesliga history. But it also means, and that is even more worrying, that Borussia Dortmund has caught up with RB Leipzig again. They are leveled on points in the 5th spot. RB Leipzig in the 4th spot. Both have 33 points. Goal difference of, I think, about 7 goals are just separating the two. However, it is so tight in that race for the UEFA Champions League qualification spot, which we, both of us, so desperately need. So, Richard, have you recovered? And do tell us, what does this all mean?
What does this mean? Good question. Well, you said it already, almost anything that was about the game, but here's my takeaway. what separates us, what separates RBL from the very top tier of the Bundesliga, so I speak about Bayer Leverkusen and Bayern Munich, of course, is not the only thing, but a very important thing is the will to go all the way until the last minute. In Germany, we often talk about the so-called Bayern-Dusel, which is a term that whenever a game is close, Bayern finally prevails, more because of luck, but of skill. But in fact, this is not true and never was, because Bayern always wants to win and always kept and keep pushing until the very last second. And often their effort was rewarded, incorrectly recognized as fortune instead of will. And this is what Leverkusen did here and did in their match at Augsburg too. So talking about scoring decisive goals in the very last minute in back-to-back games is no coincidence. This is because they wanted to win and they wanted to go all the way in every second. And this is what we do not. And this is one reason for that we can't keep up our pace for over 90 minutes and end up with not that many points, that we are sitting in a comfy UCL place position.
Well, thank you, Richard. I do remember, though, that we had a look at statistics last time, and you asked me a question if RB Leipzig has ever lost 2 home matches in the Bundesliga in a row. And at that time, I didn't know, and I kind of thought, yes, we did. So were you right? I got an inkling this might not be 100% correct.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I was quite surprised too. I thought we never lost 2 home games in a row, but in fact it happened back in 2018. It was match day 29 and match day 30 at the time when Ralf Hasenhüttl was in charge as our head coach. And we lost, interestingly, 1-4 against Bayer Leverkusen. And after that, we lost our away match in the Europa League quarterfinals and then had an away match in Bremen. And then the next match was match week 31 in the Bundesliga home game, and we lost versus Hoffenheim. So 2-5. So we conceded 9 goals in back-to-back home games. So this time it wasn't that bad, at least.
At least, yeah. I don't think there's any danger in Marco Rose having to go at this point just yet. I don't think there's any danger. Okay. Well, thanks for clearing this up and enlightening us and educating us. So now we know. So now we're moving on to our next match. So we're having a look at our next match on Saturday when RB Leipzig is going to travel to Stuttgart to play VfB Stuttgart. And of course, that match is going to be extremely important for both of our clubs. And both of our clubs are trying to avoid to be leapfrogged by the Bumblebees from Dortmund, Borussia Dortmund. But today we have a special guest, and we're very grateful and appreciate that Rory has found the time to join us. And of course, Rory is one of the hosts of the Bundesliga Show, and Rory joins us from the UK. So over to you. Thank you for joining us. So kindly introduce yourself.
Evening, guys. Thanks very much for having me on. Really excited to talk about the upcoming clash between our 2 clubs. Just jumping on. Obviously, myself from the Bundesliga Show, which is under the umbrella of Over The Bar. Myself and my co-host Mark, who lives in Nuremberg. We cover the Bundesliga as a whole. On a weekly, almost daily basis sometimes. So often on a Monday night, we'll gather to review all the fun from each match week. We'll do predictions and we do fantasy football as well. But yeah, just two random English chaps who decided to get together and share our love of the Bundesliga. And myself happening to fall for VfB Stuttgart as well along the way. So yeah, we're four seasons in now and having great fun with it. And so yeah, we feel a lot closer to the Bundesliga now. And really looking forward to this next set of matches.
That is brilliant. I must say it's exciting for us to talk to you. because before we ever started our podcast, I never thought there would be anybody in the UK who would be talking about the Bundesliga and put so much effort in. And I noticed you are very busy, and we listened to some of your shows. So well done. Keep up the great work. And hopefully there are a lot more years of fun for you to come. But when it comes to our next match, when we play at Stuttgart, first of all, I'd like to ask you, how do you feel about Stuttgart's season so far? And just when we bear in mind where they were last season, it must be incredible, mustn't it?
Utter shock, absolute utter shock. No, I think when you're looking back at last season, even the last 2 seasons, a lot has been said about players underperforming in that shirt, and the caliber of the players that we have has always, from our perspective, they have been underperforming, and maybe they shouldn't have been involved in relegation races. But to be, for the entire Hinrunde inside of that top 4 and being so comfortable within there and just being used to winning game after game is so is quite the shock from my point of view, of course, only really being a VfB follower for a short time. But yeah, it's been amazing. Lots of reasons for that, including individual player performance and the head coach and the structure that they now have as well. In terms of the upheaval that there was in the summer. But yeah, so far this season has been an absolute delight. And so, the last 2 weeks has been a bit of a shock to see the L in, the loss in the column. But hopefully, we'll talk more about the actual ins and outs of those performances and what might come ahead as well.
I must agree. In the beginning of the season, I thought, okay, this is just, just coincidence and it's not going to last for very long. But then I had to learn really fast that this was actually a sustainable development, and the style of football was very entertaining and actually warmed to it. And I remember when you were visiting Leipzig on match day 2, the first half was actually quite convincing. You were leading 1-0, and that was really fully justified, to be honest. But I was pleasantly surprised that in the second half, RB Leipzig unleashed a lot of power. However, Richard and I talked about this at the beginning of the season. The team was a lot more efficient. So in that sense, a lot of balls were forced in. But if you look at the ex-goal statistics, which I still don't fully understand, it seemed as RB Leipzig was very, very efficient, and we shouldn't have scored 5 goals. But I have to tell you, it was a really entertaining second half. But
yes.
Throughout the Hinrunde, I was always wondering, when the heck is Stuttgart going to drop off? Because, one of the 4 up there has to give, because for us to still be in there. But well done. No, it's been very entertaining. So that makes Saturday's match even more exciting, I think, for all of us.
Yeah, just a bit. I mean, the pressure that falls on both clubs now from Saturday's perspective. You can't say that a draw is a disaster for either club, but it doesn't really do either team any favours. Yeah, naturally it stops the rot in terms of the losses that have come since the winter break. But both teams will see it as a must win, really, in the context of what they're aiming for from a season objective point of view. Maybe renewed season objective for Stuttgart's point of view, but. Yeah, we stand upon the precipice of a really, really big Saturday afternoon game. It should be an absolute cracker.
But Richard, we talked about this before, and we talked about the recent losses of VfB Stuttgart, especially the last game, and you had an interesting take on that.
Yeah, to me it was a little bit similar to our game versus Frankfurt. Because we it was like we were throwing all we got to the opponent's goal and just wasn't able to score, and it just felt like VfB Stuttgart was doing this at Bochum. So they have to end up with a draw at least. It's incredible how close you can shot beyond the post. Impressed me very much. So yeah, it's not like Stuttgart is now off track. So to our RBL supporters out there, no. Rory said it's going to be a hard task for any team. So what I would like to ask you, Rory, is give us an advice how to beat VfB Stuttgart.
Well, yes. Well, two teams have managed it so far already, just in the new year. So it's definitely doable. I guess one thing that I've picked out so far, in the Rückrunde, the start of the Rückrunde at least has been defensively. Stuttgart have been a little bit more open. I think in game one, so the Gladbach loss, it was a case of, again, the performance was still strong. The style of play was, it hadn't dropped off too much in that sense, but there were a few more individual errors. And I think one thing that Stuttgart maybe did a little bit too much, which was picked up by quite a lot of people on X or Twitter, was that Stuttgart were pressing so much with such vigorous intent, which is great because it means you win a lot of balls high up the pitch. But they were doing so and leaving themselves so open to a counter attack or transition phase, which Gladbach, with their pacey forwards and their midfield, their young midfield as well, were able to take advantage of. And particularly in the second half, obviously I know Stuttgart got a goal back, but they were really open to that. The Balkan game, less so in the sense that I even 1-0 down, I expected us to come back and win that match. So as you already alluded to, the chances that we didn't take was quite stark. So from a Leipzig point of view, because your team are so good in transition and were really excellent, I thought, in that transition against Leverkusen at the weekend just gone, that's quite a scary prospect, I think, for us, especially if we are going to, go out and press, which you would expect, especially being at home. You'll have the home crowd behind as well, who will want to win the ball and see that positive intent. But I think it might leave us a little bit open, which is what I'm slightly worried about in that sense. And so, yeah, I mean, from a Leipzig point of view, it's all about that clinicality as well. Seeing Openda and Šeško playing together, the way that Openda finished that counter-attack was an absolutely beautiful bit of football from finish. And if Leipzig are playing like that with that intent that Stuttgart will come with, I expect there to be chances, and therefore I expect Leipzig to score 1 or 2 goals minimum. So, I mean, that's not necessarily a way of beating Stuttgart, but I can see it being a problem for the home side particularly.
Okay. So with both teams missing key players. So Leipzig, Xavi is not around due to yellow card suspension, and you mentioned it, Stuttgart was a little bit open in the defensive midfield. So now Karasor is also not available. So what does this mean? How do you think Coach Hoeneß will compensate that?
Yeah, interested to see what he does with that midfield axis, because I think, again, from a VFB point of view, a lot of the headlines have quite rightly gone to Guirassy and Undav and Furyk because they've been spectacular. But that midfield axis between Karasor and Stiller has been the bedrock of everything that Stuttgart have been doing in terms of winning the ball and ball retention. And Karasor has grown on me as a player. So missing him will be interesting. Whether we see Mio kind of slot back into that more defensive role, which he was doing a little bit last season more so, would be interesting. There are other options, including kind of using some of the younger players of the Stuttgart squad, rather than having to mess around too much with the structure and the shape of things. So I expect he might put in Mio and then still have Furyk and Undav further up top of the pitch, and Lurling will no doubt get a start again. So there might be a slight issue in terms of who we might play as a number 10, but missing Karasor does open up quite a lot of problems, more so than necessarily missing some of our other players, which is quite amazing to say.
Yeah. And if you look at the Leipzig squad, who do you think are the players you guys need to watch?
Well, again, based on last week and based on what I've seen already this season, I think Šeško is a player that has so much of a high bar and potential. I know what great love Leipzig fans hold for Yusuf Poulsen. But myself and Mark, we'd be lying if we didn't say that we'd think that Šeško should have been having more game time from the start of matches and using Poulsen more of an impact player when things are not going right or either way around. So hugely impressed by him. Obviously, Xavi is a huge miss. I can't lie, I'm spectacularly pleased with the fact that he's not playing on Saturday. I mean, other than that, obvious names come to mind. The return of Dani Olmo is perfect timing for you guys. I mean, Olmo is just someone that makes every team tick. His close control, his creativity, his shooting is absolutely a real high bar. Openda's been an interesting watch as well, because obviously he came in with a real, kind of talent and a lot of fanfare. And again, when you talk about the XG, which, is a stat that people throw around, whether people understand it or not is another question. And so I think Openda has impressed. He's been really good in the Champions League as well, actually. I think he's found his feet well there. He's missed chances, but, probably a confidence player, being a young lad coming into a new team. But I think he's done really well. And when you look at it from a goal-scoring perspective, he got 12 league goals or something around that number? And so being the third top goal scorer in the Bundesliga, when you still have criticism from the outside, is a hell of a starting place, really. So, if Openda brings his shooting boots and he'll be confident from scoring from last week, that's something definitely to watch out for. Further back, David Raum going forward is, really effective, as is obviously Henriks, both players I use regularly in fantasy football terms, because they're so brilliant at the top end of the pitch. So many names to list off from Leipzig point of view, because their squad is so jam-packed. One player that I love as well is Baumgartner as well, who has suffered as a result of the quality within the Leipzig squad. Huge fan of him from Hoffenheim, and obviously making that kind of step up. But we haven't seen his best yet, but I'm sure that will come.
Yeah, maybe it's interesting that you mentioned Šeško, because it's interesting because the view from the fans in the city is a little bit different. It's that close that Šeško is recognized in the city as a transfer bust. So there were rumors that Chelsea would make a bid like 50 million in the summer, and it wasn't not that more than a few people that was saying, okay, so let him go then.
Yeah, interesting. Obviously, there's a reason why Marco Rosa has taken the decisions that he has done from him using Šeško as much, and whether he's underwhelmed at times. Obviously, I don't watch every single RB Leipzig match in terms of being able to scrutinise how well Šeško does off the bench, and his goal scoring output is not great compared to, say, Openda in that sense. And I have heard also the rumours about, would Šeško be used as a way of buffering money for Leipzig to then go really hard at buying Xavi on a permanent deal or something like that? There are lots of these different rumours going around. You have to take it a lot with a pinch of salt. But yeah, if I was a Leipzig manager or coach or whoever it was, I'd be investing my time and energy into him, because he, from a football attributes point of view, you saw the way that he absolutely skinned Jonathan Tah, one of the best defenders in the league this season, which obviously was part of the build-up for the first goal last weekend. If you get those kind of refined details out of him, I think he'll be a great asset for Leipzig.
Thank you. Richard, we talked about Stuttgart before this podcast, and you mentioned you noticed that the squad and the team is very young, and you kind of fear that they're going to be dominating us in the next couple of years. Why is that? What do you think that?
Yeah, maybe. So I recognize there's only one player on the roster that is 30 or older, and this is Haraguchi. And Haraguchi only played like 21 minutes this season, so basically that doesn't count. And the next oldest player is, I think, the second keeper. It's Fabian Bredlo, who played for RBL back those days, just to mention that. And so basically the key players, the pillars in their squad are between 22 and 27 years old, and if Stuttgart can keep those key players together, those puzzle pieces together, then they will have some bright years in front. I'm sure about that.
Do you agree, Rory?
Yeah, I think one real positive thing that we've seen in this new year is the contract extensions as well. So Mio signing a long-term contract, alongside the captain Anton as well, who's one of the more experienced players as well. But just reaffirming that commitment to VfB is great, and it all just marries up with what's the ambition of the club. Something that me and my colleague Mark talk about a lot on the Bundesliga show. We want to see more ambition from all these clubs in and around versus the kind of Bayern kind of thing. So seeing the likes of Leverkusen and Leipzig and Stuttgart all thriving and keeping those players that they've made into superstars or top players in the Bundesliga is vital to have that kind of competitive element to the league, I think, for us. So yeah, the fact that Stuttgart have built this young squad, I really do hope that it can stay together for a long while yet, and not just be cherry picked away from, obviously from a Premier League perspective. I see the rumours all the time. As soon as a Bundesliga player starts to do well, he'll get mentioned once or twice, and he'll get snapped up by Notts Forest or Bournemouth or whoever, like a mid-table Premier League team, and it doesn't always go that well, which is tragic, honestly. Seeing like the likes of Aurel Mangala and Wataru Endo moving on, just playing like one of them's already moved on from Nottingham Forest. Endo's done okay with Liverpool, but he's not going to be a star of the future either. So that's an upsetting thing to see. So I really do hope that these players see that and learn from it, basically.
Interesting, because we talked about this as well in this podcast, especially in the context of the Bundesliga opening up to some sort of deal with one investor over a longer period. And there's always this threat of one of the top leagues, and especially the English Premier League, to get players from Leipzig or other teams, and especially we've seen this in last season. And greetings to Joshko, anyway, and Christopher. We do miss him. Szoboszlai, is another one. So I think we're on the same boat. The only club in Germany which kind of can resist and withstand that is Bayern München. One last question, if I may. So what's your gut feel about Saturday?
Gut feel is goals will be inbound despite the lack of clinicality from both sides. I think you'll see a reaction from both because of the loss. I know how poor Stuttgart's record is against Leipzig. Because it's at home and I expect a reaction, I'll say an exciting 2-2 draw. But
that was my prediction. It won't help us on that day, but maybe both of us are going to be satisfied by the end of the season. Still a long way to go. Rory, it's been a real pleasure having you on our little podcast, and thank you for your thoughts and sharing that as well. And it's exciting to see that there are people in the UK who are interested in the Bundesliga. Some may refer to it as Farmers League, but who knows? It might still be exciting. Just one more question: where do you catch that? Where do you watch that? How is that available in the UK?
Well, the game on Saturday will be really tricky for me to watch in the UK, so I'll be watching it on my phone on a betting app, just literally on the smallest screen you could imagine. And so, it's really difficult. Sky Sports do the Friday night game, the Saturday night game, and the Sunday games, but the Saturday afternoons are really hard to catch.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that still is quite a challenge. So, the sales manager for the Bundesliga should do a lot better, I think. But anyway, we keep our fingers crossed for a great game. Keep up the great work with your podcast. Keep enjoying it. We really enjoy having you here. And thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you for having me, both.
Bye-bye. Tschüss.
Cheers.
Brilliant stuff from Rory. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. But Richard, one thing we haven't discussed yet is who are the players to watch in the VfB Stuttgart squad?
Introducing our next opponent, their Igor check.
Today I've got two players to watch here. One obvious one and one maybe not that obvious guy. So I'm starting with the latter. It's number 18, Jamie Leveling, 22 years old, midfielder, often from the bench. And he had, in my opinion, an ascending form in recent games. Right wing is his territory, so definitely keep an eye on him. And the other one I would like to mention is number 27, Krise. Of course, not very surprising, 26-year-old already, and some kind of late starter. So last season, he was often on both sides of the pitch, the left side and the right side. But in this season, he plays only on the left wing. And to me, it seems that this fits so much better to his strengths. That really impressive performance in the first leg of the season. So not very surprising. Keep an eye on him, guys.
Do remind me, has he been called up by Julian Nagelsmann already? I kind of thought he was.
Yeah, I think he was.
So, Richard, who do you think should be sent on the pitch to beat VfB Stuttgart? Because we need 3 points. Nothing else will do on Saturday.
Liebe Fußballfans, wir kommen jetzt zu unserer heutigen Mannschaftsaufstellung.
And this is going to be a very hard task. We heard it already. But goalie number 1, still, Blaswig had some good scenes versus Leverkusen. I think it wasn't on him that we conceded 3 goals. So our defenders, Heinrichs, Lukeber, Klostermann, and Raum, still not convinced of Shima Khan. I said in our last show, I would have given him a break. And I think he wasn't a little bit off track versus Leverkusen as well.
Mm-hmm.
Our defensive midfielders, Schlager and Kampel. I didn't like Kampel's performance versus Leverkusen, but on the other hand side, I don't see Seiwald ready for the starting 11.
Although I think Seiwald has really improved, hasn't he? And matured.
Well, he wasn't on the pitch versus Leverkusen, but I didn't recognize him, to be honest.
What does that mean? Do you have Wiesbaden vibes?
Or? No, Wiesbaden, I recognized him because of poor performance. But this time I thought, okay, we were playing like 10. So I have to look this up, but it seems like he hasn't touched the ball once. Okay, so offensive midfield. Xavi not around. We talked about that. But Olmo, back again, yes. And please, Elmas. I want to see him in the starting 11. And
what makes you think Marco Rose could do that? Because he's only been substituted, or he's only been brought on the pitch like a couple of minutes before the end of the game. Well, last time was, I think, 6 minutes before the end of the game. And you couldn't really make him much of an impact on that short space of time anyway.
Yeah, maybe. But on the other hand side, we're running out of options. So Forsberg away.
You're so right.
Xavi not there. So it's basically 3 options. Olmo, okay, this is a no-brainer. And then it's either Baumgartner or Elmas. And so we saw Baumgartner. We know what we can expect from him. And also does it know too. And so, yeah, come on. Show us, show the world, show the league that you are worth 25 million.
Well, looking forward to that. I'm not sure if Marcos will put him in, but it would be great to see.
I mean, neither.
And it would be great to see, or at least give him more time on the pitch as well. Brilliant.
Yeah. And our strikers, I like our duo Goalpanda, and Yusuf Paulsen. Like this both together way more than Šeško and Openda. And, well, Šeško had his scenes in the first half, but then was completely not there anymore, not recognizable anymore in the second half. So please, Marco, bring back Yusuf in the starting 11.
Okay, so in terms of prediction, what is your scoreline?
I tried hard, but this time I just cannot see a win for us here, and I go with the 1-1 draw.
I'm going with a 2-2 draw. Yeah, I don't think that we're gonna snatch the 3 points, but to be honest, a draw is not good for any of us, because then it's likely that Dortmund's gonna leapfrog us, both of us. But that's just for now, because the season is still long. So, wow, wonderful show. Thank you very much, Richard. I really appreciate that. And big thanks goes out to Rory, the Village Footballer, and who's of course, the host of the Bundesliga Show. And that comes to you from the UK. They're quite busy over there, but he's also supporter of VfB Stuttgart. So to everyone else, thank you very much for listening to us. It would be great if you could leave a positive review on your platform. It would be wonderful if you subscribe to us. And if you think we could improve the pod, do let us know. You can do this via Twitter. You can find us at podcast_RBL or send us an email. Talk to us at rbleglobaltracks.com, and let's keep our fingers crossed that this weekend we're more successful and we need the 3 points, guys. Other than that, take care. Have a great weekend. We love to talk to you again next week. Auf geht's, Leipziger Jungs.